What's up, War Report family? We are back with another great edition of the Auburn Express podcast, powered by the War Report. Joining me, as always, is my guy Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered to talk a little bit about his power rankings, Week 6. But before we get into it, Chris, you've been busy. You've been on the road. Tell us a little bit about your travels before we get back in here. You visited Auburn a couple weeks ago. You went to Georgia, Bama this past weekend. What's it been like for you, my friend?
It's been incredible, Mike. First things first, again, appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on here weekly. And thank you so much to the Auburn folks that tune into this weekly. And I see all the comments and the engagement. It's really awesome, right? No, it's been incredible. The tour is off to a fantastic start. We're through month 1, essentially. And, I was in Auburn, obviously, a few weeks ago. Was in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. I promise I won't say too many nice things about Tuscaloosa, but forewarning, we did have a very good time. Also, the game was just flat out incredible. I was telling people after, because Alabama, I kind of found out they don't have a ton of like really big home games that have dramatic endings to them.
Yeah.
Like they're few and far between.
They dominate there.
Right, they do.
Yeah.
So I was telling somebody, I was like, I don't think I can go back because I don't think it can get better than what I saw in that ball game. So from Bama being up 30-7 to the dramatic ending, I thought Georgia had come back and was going to win that thing. And then Ryan Williams is Superman. I don't know how else to put it. He is not human. That play that he made, I got that on video, which I'm sure many have seen at this point. So we're off and running, man, in the SEC Unfiltered Tour, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. Fayetteville on the docket this weekend, Baton Rouge the next, and who knows where we'll take us. I feel like I'm getting a lot of SEC West flavor these last couple weeks. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's too bad the West is no more. But I will tell you what prevails are your power rankings every week. So let's jump right in here. Let's take a look at last week's power rankings. This was Week 5. In Week 5, you had Auburn down at the bottom right below Vandy. I feel like it's not going to be a ton of movement at the bottom here. So let's jump to the top. Georgia was 1, Texas 2, Tennessee 3, Ole Miss 4, Alabama 5. Chris, it was an eventful weekend. It was an eventful weekend. Now, you were in Tuscaloosa, so you got to witness what we all dread, and that's an Alabama win. I'm not a Georgia fan, but I will profess I don't hate them as much as some other Auburn fans do. Jumping forward here, we got some movement. You jumped Alabama from 5-1. Come on, man. 5-1 above Texas?
Mike, I listen, man, and I know that Alabama in the second half, many will point to that. I thought Bama got way too cute offensively, got really conservative. You could tell they were trying to sit on a lead. Also, give Georgia a lot of credit. Made halftime adjustments. Yeah. I mean, this is Kirby Smart we're talking about, so we shouldn't be surprised. But Mike, I think Alabama is the best team in the country. Right now, when things are subject to change, this is all going to sort itself out in the field. I think Bama's – listen, and I'll tell you this too. I'll take it a step further. I think they're the best team in the country with the best player in college football, Jalen Milroe.
Okay.
I just, watching that guy in the first half, especially do what he did, it was like watching somebody play EA College Football 25 on freshman mode. I mean, it was man amongst boys type of performance. It was Heisman-esque type of performance. So I think Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback in the country or best player in college football, truly all around. And Alabama, I think resume-wise, has the best win. I mean, I think taking down Georgia on the home field like that. And, did they give up the lead? Yes, but I look at it more so like they dog-walked Georgia in the first half. Mm-hmm. Nobody does that to Georgia. So,
yeah,
I was really impressed with what I saw. I'm not saying they're a perfect team. I don't think there are any perfect teams out there, though. Like, everybody at some point has had a bad quarter, had a bad game. So, seeing them in person, man, I left away feeling like winning that game, they've got to be the number 1 team in the country, and I think they are, and they're number 1 in my power rankings for that reason.
Let's jump back in here, Chris. So Texas at 2, Tennessee at 3, Georgia you dropped from 1 to 4. Not surprising there. Ole Miss was 4, and they lost to Kentucky, and you dropped them to 7. Which makes sense. I think that's about right, given where the rest of the conference is at right now. Rounding the rest of this out, no surprises were what Texas A&M and South Carolina are. Kentucky obviously got the win, so they move up your power rankings, I think from
12 to
14.
10.
Okay, 12-10. Yeah.
And I want to point this out too, really quick, Mike, because I think some people will look at it and say, "Well, how can Kentucky be behind Ole Miss?" The thing with the power rankings is, here's the thing: if they squared off again this weekend, I guarantee you they're a double-digit favorite again, right? And I'm not, and that's, we don't want to get too deep into the hypothetical game, but you can't just drop a team from 4 to 15 because they lose one game. You know what I mean? So it's an imperfect science for sure, but same way as we're not going to put Kentucky at number 4, we're not going to drop Ole Miss all the way down to 12 or 13. So I just want to clarify that because some people will see that and get confused. So
that's fair. I think that's fair. Obviously, OU beat Auburn. And again, Auburn continues to find ways.
You struggled to say the word beat, Mike. You struggled to say the word beat, I feel like.
Because if you looked at the stat sheet and you did not see the score, you would have swore Auburn won that game. They outgained OU in total offense by like 140 or 50 yards. And Auburn held them to under 300 yards of total offense in this one. The only turnover of the game proved to be the most pivotal. And Auburn's kicker just decided he didn't want to make kicks on Saturday. Just the perfect storm of shit to land Auburn at 2-3. But moving forward, I want to talk to you about this week's game. Auburn goes to Athens, and the worst I feared happened for Auburn. They have to play a pissed-off Kirby Smart off of a loss to Alabama in a game that they probably felt like they had in the bag after they made that incredible comeback. My question is simple, Chris. Does Auburn have a chance in this one?
And to your point, Mike, what was it, 49 straight, I think, regular season victories?
Oh, my goodness. That's a ridiculous record.
And now you know Kirby's going to be preaching about starting a new streak, and they're trying to take what's yours. And the Kirby Smart pregame speeches we're so accustomed to.
Yeah.
Does Auburn have a chance to win, Mike? I would love to sit here and say yes, but I can't do it with a straight face. So, no, I don't think they have a chance to realistically go into Athens between the hedges and win this game. That being said, I do think Auburn can make this game much more interesting than people are expecting.
Really? Okay. How do you imagine that happening?
Well, Mike, 24-point spread for an Auburn team that it is inexplicable, Mike. It is. It's inexplicable if Auburn is to hang around, even make this remotely a second-half game. But Hugh Freeze has shown he does the inexplicable. They rise to the occasion in these big games. I don't understand it, and I don't know how, but they do. Look at last year. They probably should have beaten Georgia, and they definitely should have beaten Alabama. I mean, my final score prediction in this one, Mike, just to go ahead and spare the dramatics, is I've got Georgia winning, but by a final score of 35-23, which is far closer than what the spread is telling you or anyone else is going to pick. I see this game, and again, that may not be the score, but I think, Mike, this game is going to be inexplicably close. And when I say close, I just think closer than it probably should be or people are expecting. I love Auburn on the plus 24. And maybe I'll eat my words and I might be crazy, but it's just – I even asked Mike, I don't know if you recall this or anybody else does, but back at SEC Media Days, I asked Hugh Freeze about this very thing, about his record as a, I think it was like a double-digit point underdog, or just I essentially asked him, like, what is it you guys do so well to rise to the occasion and give these teams fits and win these games? And funny enough, his response was something, Mike, jokingly like, well, I don't know. Whatever we do in those games, we should do in all the other ones, which isn't so funny right now that he said that. But I think it'll be a maddening Saturday for Auburn fans because I think Auburn's going to play far better than any are expecting and make this – it won't be the comfortable blowout that I think Georgia's looking for. And, again, I think that might irk Auburn fans more than anything that this team waited this long to finally show up. So I could be dead wrong, but I just feel like this is the Hugh Freeze special where they show up, they at minimum cover the number and make things a little bit uncomfortable for Georgia.
The Hugh Freeze special.
It's a Hugh Freeze special.
It is. That depending on the Auburn fan you ask, that could mean two things. I want to talk about Peyton Thorne for a second. On Saturday, our guy Peyton Thorne threw 7 passes of 20 yards or more and connected on 6 of them. He finished the day, Chris, 21 for 32, 65%, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 really, really big interception. Again, if you did not see the end of the game and you only looked at this stat sheet, you would think Peyton Thorne had one of the better games he's had as an Auburn Tiger. It feels like Georgia is going to really try to put the screws to him in this one. How do you see Georgia trying to defend this Auburn offense? And, does Peyton Thorne essentially have to do what he did here for Auburn to even have a chance in this one?
I mean, listen, I think obviously Peyton Thorne will have to play one of his best games, if not the best game of his career, for Auburn to be coming down to the wire with a chance to win this ball game in Athens. And to your point, this previous weekend against Oklahoma, it is kind of a shame because he did have one of his better games. And the only thing anybody's ever going to remember about that game is the pick six. That's it. They're not going to remember anything else. I mean, if nothing else, I think the quarterback conversation is probably dead. I mean, Peyton Thorne gives you the best chance to win. I don't know that there's really until something changes. I don't think there's much of a debate. But I think to your point, Georgia's going to be aggressive. I think Georgia, though, is probably going to believe they can get there with 4. I don't think they're going to start this game, sending more than that. You did see – because I was thinking maybe, Mike, in this game, like, listen, I know it's a different dynamic, different scenario, but you saw what Ryan Williams did. I mean, Auburn's got Cam Coleman. I'm not saying he's Ryan. He's Auburn's version of Ryan Williams. Like he's that special star.
He's as good. Let's just be clear. He's as good, but he's not playing with a fringe Heisman candidate on a team that's loaded with 5 stars.
That's why I said the dynamic is very different. Cam Coleman is not exactly getting the opportunity to showcase that like Ryan Williams is at Bama. But maybe this is a game where, again, we saw Ryan Williams give Georgia fits. Maybe Cam Coleman can give Georgia some fits down the field. But certainly to your point, I think Georgia, again, they're going to try to get there with 4. But the thing is, what hurt Georgia is, the running ability of Milroe was a really big deal, especially early in that game. Peyton Thorne can move, but he can't move like that. So to your point, I would expect them. They're going to bring the heat. They're going to force Peyton Thorne into some very uncomfortable situations. And how he handles those is going to determine the football game. There's no question. So he's going to have to play one of his best games for Auburn to have a chance, and maybe he can build off the Oklahoma game. He's got to forget about that last interception, but there were positives from that.
It's going to be interesting to see today. At today's press conference, a question was asked of Hugh Freeze. What do you regret the most from the Oklahoma game? And I don't know if you had a chance to rewatch, but there was they had the ball on the Oklahoma 1-yard line, and they did this wildcat thing with Sam Jackson that failed miserably. In the post game, I asked him, Chris, I said, hey, what the hell was that? Like, was that something you guys practice a lot, or did you just pull that out of your hat? And he was like, yeah, we practiced that for weeks. And I was like, you practiced that for weeks? And that was the result? I mean, Auburn had probably 13 to 17 points potentially left on the board in this game. Again, some really, really anomalous things happening to the Tigers. You have a kicker who's been solid all year, and then suddenly he misses 2 kicks, but really he missed it 3 times. He missed 1 kick twice. Like, they got bailed out with a penalty, and they had an untimed down, and he went back on the field at the end of the second half and missed it again, what should be a chip shot for a college kicker at this level. I think they're going to have to play a perfect game here, Chris, to make this interesting. What did you say the spread was on this one again?
It is 24 points, 23.5, 24, depending on the book. But to your point, Mike, I hear you say all this. I'm like, what did Auburn do to piss off the football gods? Because it just seems like this season is whatever can go wrong is going wrong. I don't know, and it's crazy, Mike. We were talking about obviously over the summer. I mean, I felt strongly, and I know you did too, that Auburn could be 4-1, maybe 5-0 going into Athens.
4-1 felt likely, right? 5-0.
4-1 felt likely, absolutely, especially before the season, and to be 2-3 and some difficult games upcoming, and obviously you won't be back at Jordan-Hare for a month. It's soul-searching time, Mike. I mean, I really think it's soul-searching time for Auburn. I think we're going to see a lot on Saturday, how much grit and resiliency and toughness and, all those buzzwords. But what are you made of? I think it's a game like this, we're going to find out what you're made of. If they go out there and Georgia wins this game 52-10, well, I think that's probably going to tell you a lot about where they are mentally. So I know it's a tough spot, but you got to keep fighting if you're the Tigers.
Well, guys, that's it. Not a lot to talk about in this one other than just watch and see what the Tigers do. If they cover, I think that will be an excellent job. Obviously, Auburn has not won in Athens since 2005 and hasn't been particularly close in those matchups on the road. Chris, before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, Mike, appreciate you, man. It's always a pleasure. We're at SEC Unfiltered, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your content. Also, YouTube, podcast, and SECUnfiltered.com.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express podcast powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.